Okay, I got another review for you guys. This is an S3000 leak detector from Ancel. This is more like your shop one. The one I showed you before, the S1000, is more your basic just smoke leak detector without the actual flow gauge and stuff. This is a little bit better. This is more of your, $300, $400, $500 price range tool, and not so much the $100 and some tool. This will help you with diagnostics much better than the other one. Okay, was interrupted. My daughter wants to go out with her girlfriends tonight to have ice cream, so I had to talk to the mom. You know how that goes. Anyway, let's get back in here. You have your power leads for your unit. You have your inflatable plug where the actual smoke comes out of the end of it. And you can plug this into the smoke machine right here. And then you can actually inflate the end. If you need to plug off like an intake or something like that. And then to release it, deflates it. You have your main smoke wand that most machines have, that most people are going to end up using anyway. It's tapered, so it can actually help, like maybe grab a little bit. But it's this basically is the lead I use all the time. And then you have another lead inside here that you can hook up to that wand, and you can use this as a plug / adapter into the main feed line for bigger stuff. And then you have a new sleeve, a replacement sleeve for the one that goes on your inflatable end. Yeah, so you get quite a bit with the kit. What I want to do now is I want to walk over here. You can see on the side, I've got it full. I've got fluid in there already. And we're going to hang it. We're going to get it all hooked up, and we're going to actually create, we're going to have the system normal, and then we're going to create a leak, and I'll show you what it does. Now I've got the system hooked up. Power, ground, this is where it plugs in. You can see I've got power on. This is where the smoke lead goes. I've got the top of my purge valve unplugged, and the top of that purge valve is what goes over to the intake. The bottom line is what goes back to the tank. So this part here goes up here to the intake, and this part here goes back to the tank. This is your test port. If you ever had like a screw-in test port, you wanted to pull this needle out, you could actually test the system right from this test port right here. We're actually going to do it right in the outlet side of the purge valve. If you wanted to take the bottom off, you could take the bottom off as well. These are press release. Let me try this. So what I've got is I pulled the feed to the tube going back to the carbon canister, charcoal canister in the back. So this is the wide open part. This is the wide open part that feeds the purge valve. So if you ever wanted to check and make sure a purge valve is not leaking, which this one's so old I'm kind of scared it might even be leaking, I just don't even know it. I've got a connector unplugged here. I've got the supply or the outlet from the purge valve over here to the intake manifold, and then I've got the line from that, so it's separated. It's just literally from the outlet side, the inlet side. Let's see if it's leaking. So what we do is we go over here and we will turn the smoke button on. We can set our leak to what we want. We can see how it's leaking right now at number 4. We can back this down. Now, see it's smoking over there? It's already coming out of the line. All right, so here's what I was doing wrong. We want to back this down to like the number 2. Most of the time you don't want any more than that when it leaks. And then you can control the amount that's coming out of here. You can see here nothing's coming out of our supply. Nothing's coming out of our inlet. And our leak is way, 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 way under 2. So let's create a leak in the system. Let's actually create a leak. You're setting the amount of smoke that would be expected to max travel through the system if there was a leak. No more pressure than what's exactly there right now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go create a leak in the system so you guys can see the smoke come out. All right, it started to get a little hot. It cooled itself down. It does this like pulse thing. It'll run for a few minutes and it'll stop. It'll run for a few minutes, it'll stop. So we're starting to get some smoke coming back out. So now what we'll do is we'll go here. That's not a very good seal. I ended up putting my line back on here and I fed it right into there. Now let's go create the leak so we can see it leaking. And you can see here, I'm still right at my 2. All right, I've created the leak. Let's see what we got on the gauge. The gauge went up a little bit. It's not, it rose up just a hair from where it was before. Let's go look and see if we see smoke anywhere. Yep, you guessed it. Right at the gas cap. See that right there? Smoke coming out of it. So that way you can test for around filler necks. You can go up underneath to your evap box right there in the back. If you had a problem with one of your evap lines on your charcoal canister, and I just heard it click, so it ran its cycle. Now it's cooling off, and it'll recycle again after it does its duty cycle. It'll load, stop, so it doesn't overheat the system. You can see it's still leaking. Now watch what happens when I put the fuel cap back on. Even when you don't have smoke, you can still detect flow while the element's cooling off. So let's go ahead, put our fuel cap back on, and go back up here, look at our flow meter and see if it's come down some. There it goes, right there on camera. Slowly coming down as it pressurizes. See how it kind of keeps coming back down? Let's look here. Let's go a little bit lower on our leak. Let's do it right there. Let's go reintroduce the leak again. Let's increase the leak pressure. In some instances, you may have to do this because you'll be waiting a while. Let's go ahead and increase this to like 3. There we go. There's our smoke. So now let's put our fuel cap back on and see what the number does. Coming back down. See how that works? Let's increase it even more. Let's see if we're looking for a very large leak. All right, so the system kicked off. It's going to cool down a little bit. See all the smoke coming out of there? So that was my little girl. She's going out with her girlfriends here. And see the car right there pulling out of the driveway. This thing's been running for about 20 minutes while me and her girlfriend's mother has been talking, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Even in the middle of us talking, she was like, "Oh my God, is your car on fire? I see the smoke coming out of the gas cap." And I was like, "No, it's fine." And then I started to explain to her a little bit more about what I do with YouTube. You can hear the sound difference with this. So let me let's take the cap off. This is no smoke right on. There's residual smoke in there. But if you're just using, let's just say oh no, smoke did kick back on now. So let's just say you're using actually I don't even want to say that. You hear how nice and quiet it is right now with it turned up to 4. Now watch what happens when we put the gas cap back on. This will show you, oh look at that. When you're used to using this tool, it'll actually start to get louder. If you leave it there long enough and it starts to build up, the tool will go, it's be super loud. Not enough pressure is built up. Let's leave it here for a second and come back. Well, it did its cycle and then kicked back off. It did its cycle and then it kicked back off. So let's just see here. Let's let it clear out the evap system real quick. With the needle off and just air going through it. So this is if you're checking for a large leak. If you're checking for a small leak that's very, very, very small, you're gonna have to leave the system on for a while. Let's turn it down to let's go all the way down to 2. Like right in here. That would be checking for like a smaller leak with most systems. You want anything more than that. And then we plug that cap back in. Let's pull this off and show you what a leak with this without this even in. So that would be a perfectly tight sealed system with something really close that you're testing. If you had a leak with something real close, open it, pops back up. If you want to turn the smoke off and just bleed out the system, get all the smoke out of it. Keep the air pumping, which is that green dot right there on the side. See when this is completely plugged, watch that pressure go up. See that? It's letting you know how much pressure you have in there, the blue. 1 psi. A little over 1 psi here. Actually, that's not. That's 5. 10 psi. Normally systems don't even get that high, so this thing's really pumping out some pressure. If your system holds, see that needle go up? Let's see how much pressure this thing can actually pump out. See, it's starting to clear up. It's not so thick and dense. It'll keep clearing up as it blows all that oil off that coil inside the machine. Watch this. Look, see how fast that raises? So this system puts out right at about 13 psi. I'll let it clear out completely and put everything away, and then we'll have some last finishing thoughts on this. So I like the tool a lot. What I like about the tool is I can control the amount of smoke and the amount of flow that I'm utilizing. I like the pressure gauge on the side, because when it does start to build up pressure and you start to see that needle rise in smaller sections of systems where you're checking for leaks, you know that there's no leak. If you're checking the entire system and you've got it turned all the way down to 2, the most you're going to get out of that is looking for some smoke somewhere in a really small tiny leak. When you get codes set for gross leak or large leak, that's when you simply turn the numbers up and you can start pumping some more out to check for some of those bigger leaks. But when you're getting like a small leak or slow, you know, this or that, then you can turn it down to about 2, depending on your fuel tank size or your fuel system size, and utilize it that way. But this system's absolutely great. I've never seen a system be able to pump out that much pressure right there. I mean, that's you can check for some serious leaks with that tool, and all the adaptions and stuff that they give you. I really like that. I was gonna take the S3000, which is the more basic one that doesn't have the pressure control. It doesn't have the pressure gauge and stuff on it. It doesn't have the flow meter and stuff on it. It's gonna be harder to see a drop in pressure when you're testing something with such a slow, controlled amount of pressure coming out of the machine when you're testing from front to back. That's why when you seen me plug that end into the purge valve, the needle started to jump up right away, because I was testing for what was coming out of the other side of the purge valve in an off state. So the pressure came up immediately, and no smoke came out of the supply side of the purge valve because it wasn't leaking. And it's such a small area that you're pressuring. Now, if you were to take that same pressure like I did and run it from the beginning of that line all the way back to the fuel tank, yeah, you're eventually going to see some smoke out of there, but there's so much room for expansion throughout that line and the fuel tank and everywhere else, you're not going to get an immediate pressure response. And of course, there's always going to be naturally just a little bit of leak, but you want to keep most evap systems and fuel systems less than, I think they call it 0.02. I think it's measured in like 0.20 or something like that, or yeah, inches of leak. Or anyway, system works great. They sent it to me. They asked me to do a good in-depth review on it. I could keep going, but I simply wouldn't retain people through a video longer than what I have so far. This is the basic setup. This is how to use it. Hypoallergenic baby oil used for the smoke, and just runs right off the vehicle's battery. Doesn't get any easier than that. No big machines toting back and forth from vehicle to vehicle, and puts out a substantial amount of pressure to check for those leaks that are hard to find. Y'all be blessed.